Buenas tardes, chicos, soy el profe Young. Bienvenidos a los artículos y los adjetivos. If this is your very first video lesson, which I think it is for most of you, this is how you're going to be doing a lot of our particular grammatical or conceptual work through the year. You're going to watch and you're going to take notes, and I'm going to check those notes for credit for you. And really, this is a support for our project that we're doing, and for all the projects we do, we'll have this as a support. And on this particular one, this is all going to be hopefully a review for you from Spanish 1-2, but I recognize it's been a long time for a lot of you since you took it. So we're going to talk about los artículos y los adjetivos. And in English, we call it articles and adjectives, and you may or may not remember what that means. So we're going to go through it. Let's do it. La primera parte que vamos a hablar es el artículo definido, the definite article. This is the most common one. What you might already know is how you say the way that we say the in Spanish. Okay, to say the, there are 4 different ways that we can say it in Espanol, and it depends on something called gender and singular or plural. Okay, in English we don't have gender. So let's talk about this. Hopefully this will be a review for you. Okay, so we have these 4 potential things that we can use to say the. And you may remember that el and los are used for things that are masculine, words that are masculine, not like boy and man and just things that are actually male. The words themselves in Spanish are masculine or feminine, like computadora, which is computer. It ends in an A, and so it's feminine, but it doesn't mean that computers are particularly girly or particularly ladylike. So there's no connection between actual male, female, and the gender of a thing. Okay, that make sense? So if I were to have the word libro, and I wanted to say the book, then I would need to think, okay, it's singular, which puts it in this category, right? And it's masculine, what makes it el. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to say this is el libro. Now, if that became libros, do you think I would still say el libros? I hope you're shaking your head and be like, no, that's not right, profe. Okay, no, we got to get rid of that. And we're going to look over here again at this, see our options. So we know it's plural. We got that S in it. We know it's plural, so we go to los or las, and then we're thinking, is it masculine or feminine? There's that O, which tells us that it's masculine, so it's going to become los libros. And in the same way, we'd have something like la pluma, which would be a pen or a feather, and if it was plural, then it would be las plumas. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully that's ringing a bell. Wow, that was really bad there. Sorry about that. So that's the definite article. That's how we say the. And the reason when we say there's a definite and give it a name like that is because there's also something called the indefinite article, el artículo indefinido, which would be like saying a or an or some. Okay? So this is the a or an, and the plural form of that would be like some. Okay? So how does that work? We've got un, una, unos, and una. Unas. Disculpa. Okay? So what's the difference? Right? It's a lot different from me saying welcome to the class versus saying welcome to a class. Right? One of them is very specific and actually makes sense. The other one seems to be kind of, might leave you scratching your head and thinking, what is that person talking about? So it actually does make a difference which one you use. And you kind of think about, are you saying this, is this a the thing or is this an a or an thing? Okay? So an example, just use our same example. If we said libro, if we want to say a book instead of the book, okay, we would go over here, oh, it's singular, right? And it's masculine, so there we go. It becomes un libro. Okay, and in the same way, if that was to be pluralized, some books, right? We would say, oh, it's plural, and it's masculine, so it's going to be unos libros. Same way with pluma, be una pluma o unas plumas. Okay, does that make sense? So that's the basic difference between the, el, la, los, or las, or a, an, or some. We'll get some more practice with that later. Okay, so those are the definite and indefinite articles. Now to add in adjetivos, adjectives, adjetivos, are things that describe people, places, or things that describe nouns. So it would be things like alto, if you guys remember that, which means tall. Let's just take that as our example. Alto would be describing something that is singular and masculine. Okay, so we would need to think about who it is that we're talking about because it has to match with the adjective. If it was if we're talking about a boy, we would say él es alto, because he's one boy and it's masculine, so there you go, él es alto. If it was a girl, we'd say ella es alto. No, we wouldn't. I hope you just caught that as fast as I did. We wouldn't say alto, we would say alta. Okay, I hope that you figured that out. If we wanted to say they, as in the guys, are tall, we'd say ellos son altos. If we want to say girls are tall, they're the ladies, they are tall, ellas son altas. So as you look through, you can probably notice that you see the O and the A and the os and the as of the adjective. We're maintaining this main part. It's only the end part that is changing to these different things, right? All these different things. Okay? So each time you got to think about what's it describing. Oh, it's just describing ellas. It's describing ellos. It's describing ella. It's describing él. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of arrows and maybe it's a little messy. We'll get some more practice with that as well. Okay, putting it all together, everything needs to match when you're doing it. You couldn't say, and maybe you can think about why this is wrong, you couldn't say el libros rojo. So to say the red books, I wouldn't say el libros rojo. Every step along the way has to match. So if it's plural, it all has to be plural. We would say los libros rojos. So even the adjective at the end has to have that same matching bit. Okay? In the same way we could say a tall man would be something like this, right? A, right? If we go back to this, remember. A hombre whoa, discúlpeme. Okay, hombre alto. And maybe what you're noticing too is that in English we would say a tall man, right? We put the adjective before the noun. In Spanish, what you may have noticed is that we actually switched that from compared to English, and the adjective actually goes after the noun. So that's a difference. Okay? So hopefully today we met our objectives. We talked about the definite article, which is the, and how it has to match the noun. We talked about the indefinite article, which is a, an, or some, and how that matches the noun. And we talked about the adjectives, right? How you take the adjective and you have to change the ending to make it match whatever gender and singular plural that you got. And then the last part is how you put it all together, that all three parts, the article, the noun, and the adjective all have to match. So hopefully that was a helpful reminder for you when you're starting to put some things together for your Quién Soy Yo project. Muchas gracias por escuchar y nos veremos en clase mañana. Hasta luego.